Welcome to today's episode. Rachel Poirier rejoins the podcast to share practical, encouraging tips to help you and your kids ease into the back to school season with confidence and calm. In this episode, she discusses 3 ideas for supporting executive functioning that you can begin at home right now.
Yeah, let's keep it really simple and really accessible. And what I like about these strategies is that even if parents aren't doing them yet, they are a great way to start. Even this weekend, and they don't need to be super time consuming, and we don't have to give a ton of thought to them necessarily before we begin. And another thing I really like about all of these strategies is that they are equally applicable to our children, regardless if they're starting kindergarten or if they are going back to university next month. So, the first strategy that I really think is valuable is looking ahead to the upcoming week. And I love to think about this one on the weekend, so on a Saturday or Sunday. And what it involves is just sitting down together as a family and mapping out the upcoming week. And this is to think about what we have happening in terms of appointments, athletic practices, family meals, grocery shopping, anything that we have upcoming, and get looking ahead and getting it on the calendar, just making a plan together so that we're not surprised for what's coming up for us. And this can open up conversations about scheduling, about who needs to be picked up or driven where and when, any potential conflicts that could come up, and that way we're getting the discussions going before sort of the point of performance so that we can problem solve before the moment, before the day, and get all of the preparation done in advance.
And I like how this allows the whole family to focus on some of the executive functioning skills that you mentioned in your newsletter. So, future thinking, cognitive flexibility, so shifting between activities or even days of the week, problem solving, as you mentioned, getting ahead of some possible issues and talking about how you might address or resolve those. So, this is something you can do. You can even start now, even if you don't start back to school next week. You could do this weekend, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And for those of us maybe that have tweens or teens in the home that are starting to prepare meals, maybe we're starting to add that as a chore within our families for our older children who are expected to maybe take on the responsibility of a family meal night. This is a great opportunity for them to look at the recipe that they're going to prepare and get the grocery list going and think about, oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna need green beans for Wednesday night because it's my meal night and this is the recipe that I'm gonna make. So I need to add my items to the grocery list. And I need to make sure that I'm home by such and such a time because that's my meal night. Yeah.
Perfect. So parents listening to this can start this weekend, just 15 to 30 minutes. Doesn't have to be a long, in-depth process, but this kind of gets them warmed up to what they can then carry through the rest of the school year on a weekly basis at least.
And one other thing, Andrew, I wanted to say too, is it's a great way to prime our students as well to be thinking about when they start, getting these projects coming in during the school year as well, that they're going to need materials for, right? They need the poster board or they need the note cards or whatever it is. It can really lead nicely into maybe the backpack overhaul that ends up happening on the weekend where we want our upper elementary school students, middle school students, even our high school students to kind of dump out those backpacks and look through all the things, the folders and the papers and the planners, and get organized and be looking ahead to those longer term projects and think about the materials that they need to avoid sort of that last minute run to the store to get the materials that they need the night before for the big project that's due.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So a nice dry run or a practice, planning and preparing together.
Mhm.
Perfect. What's the second tip that you have for parents supporting their kids going back to school?
The second tip that I like to think about is recharging on purpose. Because when we think about our executive functioning skills, it is true for all of us that we just don't do well when our executive functioning batteries are low. And that holds true for every single person, no matter what age, no matter what time of the day. When we are at our best, as adults, we can function with top-notch executive functioning skills. And as soon as we get depleted and we're low on nutrition, low on hydration, low on sleep, our executive functioning batteries get drained really, really quickly, and we will struggle to execute. And that holds true for children and adults alike. So, as soon as our executive functioning batteries get depleted, we need to take intentional pauses to recharge our batteries. And that may be with nutrition, with hydration, with an intentional pause in nature, it may be with an intentional break, with some alone time, and it can be really powerful to model that reset to our children as we're in tune with ourselves and we're noticing, okay, I need to take a pause to reset. I need to get a drink. I notice I haven't had enough water today. I just need to take 5 minutes for a quick snack because I've got to recharge my batteries here.
And you can plan those breaks, right? But for a parent who is observing their child, because executive functioning skills, some of them are kind of invisible in a way, like, they're doing this cognitively. What are some signs that a break might be needed?
I think when we see our children becoming easily frustrated, we see some of that inflexibility creeping in. We see some of that rigidity, some inability to self-reflect and self-monitor. Some children may have really high energy levels and get a little bit frantic. And struggle to rein in their energy levels. All of those may be signs that a reset, an intentional reset, could be necessary.
Yeah, and you mentioned emotional regulation, which is an executive function skill. So it may be more less developed in some kids than others, and then it's also, of course, a sign that they might be peaking, with their energy level or their attention. So those are all really good tips. I guess especially now with kids returning to school, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like exercise or working out. If you've taken a long break, you kind of have to build up to that level that you were at before. So getting started early sounds like a pretty good idea.
That's exactly right. I agree. Great point.
Okay, what's the next tip that you have?
The next tip is to focus on progress, not perfection, and to celebrate the small wins, and to focus on celebrating together as a family, and to remember that this is not just skill building that our children are doing, but that really we're all in this together, and to really intentionally celebrate every day a small win, either something that we notice for ourselves or something, an executive functioning win that we notice for our children, and really name it, right? So, for example, oh my gosh, you really had a picture in your mind of what you needed today and you grabbed your backpack without being reminded. I love that. Really great job. Or, really intentionally modeling that we're going to write something down so we don't forget it. Really intentionally modeling that we're going to put our work bag with our computer in it by the door so that we can remember to grab it. We have that visual cue so we can grab it when we leave the house in the morning. So, really setting ourselves up for success to offload some of the heavy lifting that our brains would otherwise have to do from an executive functioning perspective. So, finding those little hacks that work for us and then making that thinking visible for our children. Because I think so much of the time, it can be that our children maybe watch us and see that we're doing a lot of executive functioning, And maybe it's happening behind the scenes, right? Because we don't make it visible, or we as adults have come up with these sort of executive functioning strategies or hacks, and maybe we do them sort of subconsciously or unconsciously because we've kind of figured it out by now in adulthood. Um, and we don't make it visible. So our children just kind of see it happening and they think that it's maybe kind of magic for us. So I think the more we can make it visible and make it explicit, our children see that actually we're working kind of intentionally and kind of hard at this, and there are systems and habits and routines that we have developed to make life flow quite smoothly. And they're always watching us and learning from us. And the more we narrate it and the more visible we make it, the more they're learning from that. And the more they will learn their systems, habits, and routines, and mindsets as well that will work for them over the years.
I love your focus on praise and positive feedback. It's so easy to criticize what's not done right, especially if your child has a lot of executive functioning challenges.
Mm.
But what you're saying is to be on the lookout for, to notice, and to point out the things that they're getting right. And some of the examples that you offered are really cool. You said you remembered your backpack versus, oh, you forgot your backpack, or nice job picturing what you need for the day instead of, something more negative. So you're really driving home those positive statements so that they feel noticed. I also like that you shared the importance of modeling and sharing your own executive function challenges and talking about them so that they can see, hey, this affects everybody, not just me. And with some support, I can work through this. So, real quick recap. You talked about the importance of setting aside 15 to 30 minutes this weekend to plan as a family. Parents whose kids are going back to school next week or sometime in August, you can start right away. Just establish that routine, get into the swing of things, figure out what's working, what's not working, make adjustments. Talking through about how you recharge, and then inviting your child to try that too. Recognizing the need for play and downtime and doing something else to reset and refresh your mind. And then looking for small executive functioning successes each day. They can just be in little tasks, like you mentioned, and pointing those out so that your child feels seen and heard and feels like they're moving forward.
And let's not forget the importance too of praising. We can praise our own executive functioning challenges too, so that again, our children know it's not just them that are working on this. You know, I often use myself as an example in our home, and my son has now picked up on saying, "Mom, you remembered the grocery list this time, so you didn't forget the sausage." You know, because I'll often use myself as an example and say, I didn't write it down, so I forgot like 5 things, because let's face it, I mean, we get tired and we get annoyed when our kids, exactly as you said, when they have executive functioning challenges. It is so easy, to kind of like shake our fingers at them and say, where's your backpack? Where's your water bottle? It's at the baseball field again, and I think, and I'm guilty of this, and so I really strive to use myself as an example of executive functioning failures too, because it happens to all of us, and
Yeah,
it
we
really
all do. And
yeah.
when we notice those things in our kids, maybe we ought to use that as a mirror because we may be struggling with some of the same challenges. So
That's exactly right, and it normalizes it, right? And what a gift for our children to be able to look at us, the adults in their lives, and think, "Wow, well, if she's still messing it up, I guess, it's not there's hope for me. It's not so bad, everybody messes it up, I guess."
that's right. We all struggle with this stuff. So, well, this is great. We wanted to keep this kind of short, back to school tips. Is there anything else we forgot or that you wanted to add?
Just we've got this, parents, and in solidarity. Here we
You,
go. Happy school year.
you have such great information. You're a parent coach in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Tell listeners how they can find you, what services you offer, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. As you said, I'm based in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, and I offer student executive functioning support and parent coaching. Parents can find me on 8th Street in Glenwood Springs, Colorado at my office, and they can find me online at peartreebx.com.
Wonderful. Rachel, it is so good to see you and catch up with you again. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing this.
Likewise, always good to see you, Andrew. Happy school year.
That's it from us today. As always, you can find more information as well as resources on our website, individualmatters.org. We hope you'll join us at the next podcast, where we'll continue to explore topics around successful living, learning and education, and child development, and share ways to help you live a more positive and fulfilling life.
The preceding information is not intended to provide or serve as medical, clinical, or educational advice. Individual Matters is not responsible for the accuracy of guest statements. All information should be validated independently. Please consult with your doctor, mental health provider, attorney, or other appropriate professionals before making any personal decisions for yourself or those in your care.